And I know it's a place to vent, but it's not really too many, happy endings or success stories. And I know that they're out there. And even if they aren't, we need to start making more. So we need to figure out what we can do to make sure that our babies are okay. We can't live forever.
No.
And we
What I
have to make
find,
sure we're okay.
what I find, Khadijah, is there's two kind of parallels. One is like my child is dependent on me and he's going to be dependent on me and I don't want anything more for him for the rest of his life. And then one is I want him to live independently. I want him to live on his own and or with roommates and have a life worth living. And so you have to decide. I don't think either one is wrong or right, right? You have to, depending on what your child's needs are. My personal goal for my son, because I see what he can do, is I want him to live independently or co-independently, right? He's going to have the supports as he gets older. In order for that to happen, you have to give your child the ability to go out and do those things. My child is 13. I leave him at home by himself for an hour at a time because I know he can do that, right? Some people aren't comfortable doing that with their children, especially if they have hyper needs or higher needs. And so that's okay. In order for him to learn how to be at home by himself, learn how to get up and get himself a drink or eat, you have to allow him the space to do it. He's not going to learn without that space. You're going to learn one of two things. He can't do it or he can. If he can't do it, you make accommodations. If he can, maybe you add 30 minutes here or there.
Yeah, you know what? I struggle with that because I was feeding them, and like when I would go to therapy, they would be like, "So can they feed themselves?" I'm like, "No, not yet." But I'm like, "Did I ever try? Let me get them a spoon in the bowl."
Yeah,
and of course,
let me try.
yeah, and of course the bowl is on their head and they're doing, but eventually they get it. They get it in their mouth, and I'm like, "If you get it in your mouth, it's cool." But you kind of tend to hold on tighter. Like, okay, wait a minute. I had to be overprotective. So I love that. And I really want to just help women, mothers, and you don't have to be a single mom, but just with their business. You know what I mean? Because again, you can't, it's hard to have a go into a 9 to 5 and they're calling you because your child's having a tantrum.
So let me tell you about that. So ladies, men, whoever you are, take your FMLA. So there is FMLA where you can take time off, but there's also contingent FMLA that people don't realize. So your doctor can write up something that says that your child has flare-ups. You have to leave to deal with it. It's contingent. It's as needed. And so that's what I did in my first corporate role at Allstate. And I had a very supportive leader. Josiah's having a flare-up. I've got to go get him, take him to maybe his dad or whoever, and then I'll be back at work. I have to come in late. And you write it up every time it happens to HR. That's what it's there for. The other FMLA is obviously what we talk about, the longer term. I need to take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months because my child is having a crisis. And so what I will say in retrospect, some leaders don't like that. So a very personal story. I went back to FMLA when I got into my corporate role at MetLife. And I said, look, my son is in crisis. Like, I need to be able to take him to camp, take this time off to do whatever. He didn't like that. I had a boomer boss. I still love him to this day. So he said to me, you leave when you need to and come in when you need to, but you don't need to do FMLA. He said that, right? And I had no record of it, but I trusted him. And so I did it. And he kept, he was true to his word. However, if he wasn't true to his word or there was another issue, I would not have been protected. Right. Against his. Right. Yeah. So you do what you feel is right in your spirit, but it's to use. Teams got to be able to move on. Employers have to be able to move on with or without you. Right. That's what these systems are set up for. But use those systems that are in place, like FMLA, to support you and what's going on with your family.
Yeah, that's important. Use your PTO time, use your FMLA, and then like you were saying, like you can stay at your job and then they can decide the next day, okay, thank you for your service, but we don't need you anymore. And now you're like, you know what I mean? So tell us where they can find you, how you can help our businesses and our business owners.